factories right now. Wow, look at that night game going on. Some big balloon lights apparently, big weird looking lights lighting up the crowd. And he's got all of his. Oh, that's dangerous, man. That's dangerous. Putting those tanks in that corner there. It's a very strong position, but the goons could fire over the gap at those tanks very easily if they were so inclined. 3 tanks, a lot of tanks for this part of the game would probably be able to tear apart the dragoons regardless, but still. Anyway, so he's getting turrets up now to protect his base, just a case of what kind of tech. He does not know anything about what's going on with Best right now. He doesn't know this expansion is up. He may suspect it. He may suspect what's going on, but he doesn't know what kind of tech Best has. Best has gone for just observer tech actually, so we haven't seen him go for any high-tech attack units yet. Finally, a second factory going down for fOrGG. I mean, that's one of the strengths of Terran is you can get that siege mode, you can get those mines, you can play defensively, and get your economy going and get your tech going long term off very little bit of. At some point, you do have to move out, of course. You can't just play completely offensively. But fOrGG was able to play defensively with just a very few units and get that expansion up, so he didn't need more than that one factory for a while. It looks like he's going to try and set up a third base. He's going to probably push out and just siege up along that ridge and try and secure that third base, have a long line of siege tanks. That's going to be very, very precarious, especially if he doesn't have a lot of support units like vultures in the way to try and protect those tanks. So he's going to have to be very, very careful to not get busted. And Best is known as a very aggressive player. Is definitely the kind of player that would send in some forces and really just punish fOrGG for trying to get that third base. Oh my god! Oh my god! So I wouldn't be surprised if we see Best actually win the game on a move like that. We're going to see fOrGG move out and kind of siege up, and he's going to be able to pick off some mines here pretty easily. While fOrGG, excuse me. Sorry, I'm a little bit sick, so I'm going to have to be drinking water a little bit more often than usual during these casts. I got a little bit of a sore throat, actually, so I probably shouldn't be casting at all, but oh well. It's the Proleague Finals, baby. There he is. He's going to set up those tanks on the opposite side of that ridge again, in a very sort of pseudo-protected position. They're protected against zealots running up on them, but with an observer nearby there, he could easily just run up dragoons and pick those off. And look at there's the Korean commentators. They're standing up, yelling at. And here we go. There's that probe sneaking into that bottom left location, like I was mentioning before. Anyway, so fOrGG might be in a precarious position here. I kind of do like the tanks behind that ridge, though, actually, because oftentimes without the support, you need the support units to protect against zealots coming in. And getting in amongst your tanks, and without them, a few zealots can just completely own a tank line, just a few. And so by having some of those tanks behind that ridge there, they're protected from zealots, and so it's actually going to be okay defense there, but still somewhat precarious because see, there's still a few tanks along that ridge there, very little protection for them. He is setting in some vultures to protect them now. He's going to have to get more in there though. There's some dramatic looks of their blank expressions. Wow, and more factories going down. 1, 2, 3, 4 more extra factories going down. So Best is going to have to get some units on the ground here pretty quick because otherwise fOrGG is probably going to start producing a few tanks out of his factories and then just make a big push off 3 bases is what it looks like he's going to do. Starport going down as well, probably just for upgrades and such, just to get the tech there. There's Bunky and Evil Bunky. The SK-T1 mascots. Best now at 4 bases, though. Best at 4 bases, and and a lot of units on the ground. Well, not a lot of units, not a ton of units actually. He's actually, look at this, he's got a decent tank line, he's got the mines in the way, but again, very few support units, and his forces are stretched out very thin from that top position all the way down to his natural expansion. A very, very long, thin tank line there, and this would actually be an ideal opportunity for Best to attack right now. When he's putting up those factories, when he's got an unprotected tank line, this would have been a perfect chance, but Best has been teching and macroing instead, not macroing his units as much as getting his extra bases up and his tech up. So he's not going to be able to make use of this opportunity, but he is perhaps going to be able to win in the long run regardless, because he has gotten that 4th base up in the bottom left corner. He's going to be able to put up a lot of units. Recalls are going to be on the way pretty soon here. Pretty good on this map, actually. And fOrGG knows it. He's putting up those turrets in good positions to protect against arbiters coming in. But more so, he's putting it on those mines. And oh my god, it is beautiful. It's a beautiful sight to see. A recall land on top of like a few mines. A very small minefield can destroy an entire army very quickly on a recall. You know, sometimes they'll recall and every unit will die to mines. It's just gorgeous to watch. He doesn't quite have enough mines for that around in his base, but he is going to be able to severely weaken any forces that recall in his base. And sometimes players will even these days send in an observer, suicide an observer through the turret line to spot what kind of mines are going on in their base before they send their recall in, just to make sure that doesn't happen, because otherwise it can be very, very painful. And even if only a couple mines go off on your army, it's usually enough. It's usually enough damage that it makes the units very weak to being finished off by tanks and vultures and such. Anyway, there's the KT team looking on very, very intently, wondering if fOrGG is going to pull this off. He's got his three base push preparing. He's probably preparing for some upgrades to finish or something like that before making his push. I'm going to try and check the upgrades next time they click on it. Looks like 0-1 upgrades for fOrGG, so he's probably going to wait for 2-1 upgrades and then make a big push with a ton of units. He's got a lot of tanks, and look at that. He's gonna, oh my gosh, but fOrGG might not have time though. Best is going in instead. Best with just +1 upgrades as well. Upgrades, second level upgrades not quite in yet for fOrGG. The Zealot's getting in very close, getting all the way up into those tank lines. He's got a lot of support units, but at this point his tank line is just stretched too thin, and a ton of units are going to be able to take out that 3rd base. The 3rd base might go down. Is that command center going to be able to float away? And a stasis goes off on those front tanks that were going to reinforce that base, and the base goes down. The command center gets destroyed in midair. The tanks behind the lines were not quite enough, and now it's going to come down to, is the frontal attack going to succeed though? There's some unit stasis in the front, but the Zealots have gotten in between anyways. The tanks behind that ridge are not doing any good. The Zealots are up in the middle, just destroying everything. Not enough support units. Oh man, and he was just preparing. He was probably going to start pumping vultures out of his factories to support his units in preparation for that push, for that 2-1 push, and instead he just did not have enough support units on the ground. A beautiful timing attack there by Best, coming in just at the perfect moment, and upgrade's still not finished actually for fOrGG. So he may have been waiting a little bit longer than I anticipated there for that push, but fOrGG just gets completely obliterated there, and now this is no longer a 4-base to 3-base game.